Well, in an address to the UK Parliament, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has repeated his appeal for more Western weapons. Zelensky's making just his second trip abroad since Russia invaded Ukraine nearly 1 year ago. He thanked Britain for backing Ukraine since day one of Moscow's invasion and urged Western partners to deliver advanced weapons, including fighter jets, as Kyiv braces for a potential Russian offensive this spring. As Zelenskyy said, a victory for Ukraine would deter future aggressors.
We know Russia will lose. And we really know the victory will change the world. And this will be a change that the world has long needed. The United Kingdom is marching with us towards the most important victory of our lifetime. It will be a victory over the very idea of the war. After we win together, any aggressor, it doesn't matter, big or small, will know what awaits him if he attacks international order.
Well, DW correspondent Birgit Maas is in London, and I spoke to her earlier about Zelensky's historic address to UK lawmakers.
A very powerful speech, and President Zelenskyy really managed to strike a balance between, on the one hand, defiance and strength, but also humility. He spoke about how when he was going to meet Prince Charles, it was a very humble moment for him, but he also said in Ukraine, every Air Force pilot at the moment is a king. And he definitely knew how to address British lawmakers who like to feel special, and he said that they were really standing by with Ukraine from day one, and he evoked the references to history and the defeat of Nazism. But he also came with something that he wanted, and you have mentioned it. He said that Ukraine needs fighter jets, and he said this will be the wings that Ukraine needs for its freedom and for its peace.
And tell us more about this trip. We know it is only the second confirmed trip by Zelenskyy outside of Ukraine since the war began. How was he welcomed there?
He was welcomed very warmly by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and also by the lawmakers who gave him standing ovations. They know that President Zelenskyy actually puts himself into quite a lot of danger by traveling. It's very risky for him to leave Ukraine, and he's doing it in order to make sure that there is no waning of Western support for Ukraine. He really needs to keep this coalition alive, this coalition between the Western partners, where the UK is really one of the most important allies for Ukraine, for President Zelenskyy.
And with that in mind, what else do you think we can expect to see on his visit?
Well, we know that he's going to meet with King Charles, but we also know that he's going to visit the troops. Ukrainian troops have been trained in the UK since 2014, says the British government. They also say that this year they're hoping to train 20,000 Ukrainian soldiers. And quite significantly, they announced today that they will also train jet fighter pilots. So the UK hasn't said that they are also going to deliver aircraft to Ukraine, but they are training the pilots. So this might be quite a significant shift in the UK's attitude towards the possible delivery of aircraft to the Ukraine.
Well, thank you so much for that update. That's a DW correspondent, Birgit Maas in London. And for The View from Ukraine, I asked DW correspondent Nick Connolly in Kyiv about the reaction there to Zelensky's trip to the UK.
Well, definitely, lots of people here thinking this is long overdue, especially given the UK's role supplying Ukraine early on with weapons at a time where lots of other European capitals, at least as seen from Kyiv, were still basically planning for a Russian victory and didn't have a lot of faith in Ukraine's ability to fight this war. And obviously this announcement of the training for fighter pilots is very, very welcome. Yesterday we had the German Defence Minister Boris Pistorius in town talking about tanks, some of which would only be arriving at the end of 23, early 24. And people here are already basically calculating, factoring all of that in, and they're thinking further. So this is a very welcome announcement. It's kind of a breaking of a taboo after other leaders, German Chancellor Chancellor Olaf Scholz, but also US President Joe Biden basically dismissing the idea of sending weapons of that kind. So that is very, very welcome and something that people, I think, here were expecting given the kind of strength of those ties.